And here we have some interesting geological features. So these are the Natural Chimneys, which are located in Virginia, so in the western part of Virginia. You can actually see some of the Appalachian Mountains in the background. But these rock formations are actually made of
layers upon layers of limestone that have been eroded away.
You can actually see a pretty good on the top of that one there what they're actually made of. So how the rocks are layered up. So this would have been basically the bottom of a lake or inland sea at some point, and there would have been layers upon layers of sediment deposited, which would have formed those layers of
limestone.
You can see some interesting trees in the background. We're actually looking probably northwest. You can see the open fields and the farmland in the background. So that's the Shenandoah Valley back there of Civil War fame. So during the Civil War, Stonewall Jackson basically had a lot of victories in the Shenandoah Valley. And here you can actually see some of the bedrock this place is actually made of. So this layer upon layer of
limestone.
So I'm actually standing with my back faced to the chimneys. This gives you an idea of what the stonework beneath them, or the stonework that makes them up, actually looks like. Here's a view of the chimneys from the ground level, and this actually gives you some idea of the scale of them. So you can see a fence for scale in the front foreground, and you can see a building to the side. But these, I imagine, they're probably like 100 to 150 feet tall. And you can also see an archway that's actually eroded into the base of it, so it actually kind of looks a little bit like a medieval castle. It also kind of reminds me of the Five Sisters, which I saw when I was visiting Australia. I believe they're actually formed by the same geological processes of layered sand beds followed by erosion. Here you can see the part that's been eroded away. You can also see a bunch of vines that have been growing on the side of this rock face. I imagine that was actually used as some sort of shelter for prehistoric humans. There's another cavity that's been eroded away over here as well. Also, looking up here beside the chimneys, you can see this interesting cliff side over there. That's actually close to where I was before, so if you can make out the fence in the upper left, that's where I was viewing the chimneys from before. But that also shows you the layered and cracked rock that this is composed of. And here you can see around the side of it, so you can see how this entire inner area is actually missing, and you can see those two chimneys that are hanging, that are freestanding. And here you can see where the base of one of these structures has actually been completely eroded away, so it's basically a giant arch. And if you look up, you can see this is actually a pretty substantial chimney that's standing precariously on that small amount of rock right there. There's also a square stone in the center there, which probably fell off of it. Also, it's interesting, that tree up there as well. And there's one of the chimneys before that actually looks like it could eventually turn into a chimney as well. So that's another one of these columns that's actually starting to erode away. Maybe in a couple hundreds of thousands of years, that'll be a chimney as well. And just another look between the chimneys. So this is looking straight up at the viewing platform that I was at before. So the viewing platform's to the right of that chimney in the center. And here is one last look at the vines that are growing in the face of these chimneys. You can see there's even some trees on the top of these, so maybe these vines are actually roots for the trees growing on the top.